Trump, President Biden saying the loss doesn't mean Democrats have been defeated, calling for them to, quote, get back up. The president also saying his administration will work for a peaceful transition. And then he spoke about Vice President Kamala Harris.
President Biden urged Americans to come together after the election.
I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other.
He praised his vice president, saying she ran an inspiring race she should be proud of.
And everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice.
You know, in a way, you're funding America's future, and it's probably not the future you want for yourself or for your children. Most major credit card companies, if you use a credit card, they funnel millions of dollars to liberal causes and candidates hoping that you don't notice. Take a stand and get the woke out of your wallet. Coin is a conservative's credit card. You earn cash back while advancing a conservative future and the conservative agenda. Apply now at coin.com. That is COIGN.com. Coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. And when you visit Coin or when you talk to them, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Coin. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is your one-stop shop for all things men's health care. Guys, if you're feeling sluggish, run down, you're low energy, you just don't feel like you have it anymore. Well, might I recommend Tennessee Men's Clinic? I know that they can help you. Their qualified urologists will bring you in. They will examine you. I'll give you a full examination and get a little blood work to find out what's going on inside of that body of yours. Do you have low T levels? Do you know if you have low T levels? If you don't know that you have low T levels, you should probably find out, because if they are low, they can be impacting your energy and affect performance in the bedroom. Gentlemen, it's not something that has to happen to you. You can get help. We can solve this together with Tennessee Men's Clinic. Make the appointment that so many other men have made to Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's discreet, it's professional, and it works. A lot of different programs and plans for you. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or schedule an appointment to the location either in Cool Springs or in Midtown. 615-208-9090, 208-9090. Longtime listeners of the Matt Murphy Radio Show will know that we have a long-standing friendship that I destroyed with Senator Heidi Campbell, Democrat from Nashville, Tennessee. Heidi, she won, didn't she? Did she beat Wyatt Rampey? I think she did.
I thought so.
I believe that is the case.
I'll check.
I think that Heidi is all good when it comes to returning to the Tennessee Senate as a Democrat in Nashville.
Did Afton win her race?
Yeah, I think all of them. All of the Democrats in Nashville
I
won.
don't agree with Afton
Nashville.
on anything, but I like her, and I'm just
You think
happy
she's
for her.
cute?
Well, she is, but that doesn't change the fact that she came in here with a very good attitude and was very nice and friendly.
Well, I'd love to have her back.
I would too.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I like talking to Democrats. I mean, believe it or not. I mean, but of course, I like beating my head against a brick wall too. So there you go. But I would invite Heidi back. As a matter of fact, we need to press on that.
We have.
We have invited her back multiple times, and she has declined. She will still talk with you, right?
Yeah.
Via text?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we text her.
Did you let her know that Sapicki wanted to sit down with he and her and talk about school choice in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah. Scott did too. No response.
No response, huh? Well, we're open for that. She won?
She won.
Well,
So
there
did
you go.
Afton Ben.
All right. Good for them. And
What were their margins? Does it say?
No. It doesn't say.
Yeah, they won. But you know what? That's to be anticipated in the little blue dot that is Nashville around the bright, bright red state that is the state of Tennessee. But she offered a note. It says, "A note from me." This is on Heidi's Twitter page. I should alert you to these things, Belle, because I think we need some violin music behind this. But don't worry, we'll do it next time. For most of us, unless you have it, for most of us, it was a uniquely tough conclusion to a hard-fought election. That's because we're paying attention, and we know the majority just voted for continued division and chaos and a slate of hate that marginalizes and hurts so many Americans. Who? All right, I'm going to pause a couple of times during this because, one, I think it's hilarious. I really do. Two, I'm trying to break this down. I've seen a lot of this online lately, and I know that liberals are having a difficult time processing. I understand that that you can't function very well after losing. I get it. I understand how it felt when Trump lost in 2020. So I can kind of imagine what you're going through, particularly in as much as you don't really live in the real world. But that said, I've seen a lot of those. Have you seen these, Belle, on social media? You're not on Facebook. They're mostly on Facebook, where there's a rainbow flag behind the message, and the message is like, if you have an LGBTQ plus friend, please reach out to them today. They're scared. They feel helpless and hopeless, and they need your love.
Well, we've got the countdown to the LGBT massacre on the way too. With
What? Explain to me during his first term what Donald Trump did that was in any way against the LGBTQ community. Help me understand that. Donald Trump has declared that he doesn't give a rip about gay marriage. He has also said, for those of you concerned about abortion practices, that he believes and has always believed that it was a function of the states, and the states themselves make those decisions based on the will of the voters. That is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. That is what democracy looks like, you morons. I'm hearing music somewhere. Oh, it's coming out of my computer. I think I activated my computer somehow. So now I've got music going on.
I think you forget in your exuberance that democracy is great as long as you vote the way I like.
Well, that's where liberals have gotten to, obviously. But I would be really curious how Heidi would define this, as she says that we have voted for a slate of hate that marginalizes and hurts so many Americans. Like whom, please? We know that the majority voted against women and for a group of ideologues who intend to enact the policies of Project 2025. I mean, she's just bought into all of these lies. This is all nonsense. You're smarter than this, Heidi, I think. Aren't you? I heard from so many people today who are reeling from the outcome, who are sad and, frankly, terrified about what the future holds. He was president. You know what the future holds? $2.20 gasoline. Lower prices on eggs and bacon. Lower prices on other things that we buy at the grocery store. Lower prices on heating oil. Lower prices on energy. A southern border that does not allow individuals to come across it that would do damage to the American fabric and actually kill Americans. He believes in law and order. Maybe we'll have a little law and order in Nashville, Tennessee. What was the young lady at Belmont? I forget her name. I apologize. Someone in the super text line will remind me, although I just closed out the super text line accidentally. Early this morning, Heidi continues. Oh, no, she said, I heard from so many people, they're terrified about what the future holds. And despite the fact that we won the election for Senate District 20 last night and will hang on to the seat, I also woke up this morning feeling fearful and bereft. Early this morning, my husband and I stumbled into the car and drove in a dismayed stupor to get breakfast, seeking the most sane and accepting, a.k.a. MAGA-less atmosphere that we could find. Oh, my God, they're trying to subdivide the country. Where'd you go? You go to Waffle House? You go find some MAGA at Waffle House. Better not go to Cracker Barrel. I mean, the name itself implies MAGA.
Whoa.
I tell you what.
I never even considered that before. It's been right under my nose the whole time. And I think the name you were looking for was Jillian Ludwig.
Jillian Ludwig, thank you. Law and Order. I bet her family wants some of that. Anyway, Heidi continues, which is just delicious. Pop-Tarts, puppies, off-the-grid road trips to Montana, real estate in Portugal, and binging Bollywood movies were proffered, but we left with our dread intact. What? I've blocked off a few days post-election to rejuvenate, but felt too uneasy to relax, so I started sorting through the backlog of papers in my office that had accrued over the course of the election. As I was going through the bills we'd worked on, the legislation that we had passed through committee, constituent correspondence, and seminars I'd attended, glancing over issues that had been supported by thousands of Tennesseans who deeply care about our environment, healthcare, affordability, infrastructure, education, DCS, children, mental health, disability, women's rights, immigrant rights. The dread began to dissipate. Today, nothing has changed about the amazing work that all of these people do. Well, wait a minute. I thought we were going to put all of y'all in cages. Doesn't she remember that? Anyway, she goes on to talk about all of the work that's left to be done. A note from Heidi. I sincerely would like to talk to liberals who genuinely think that this means that their rights are going to be deprived of them. And I would love for them to tell me exactly how that is. Because Donald Trump does not subscribe to Project 2025. Project 2025 was a Conservative Heritage Foundation wish list, much of which I disagreed with because I'm a libertarian. I'm not a conservative. I do not believe that the conservatives should be allowed into our homes in the fashion that some would suggest they should be there. Thank you very much. But outside of that, I can't figure out for the life of me what liberals have come to believe about this president who has been president before. I would like to know. I would like to make them feel better. I would like to help them understand how much they've been misled by the likes of Heidi Campbell. Heidi Campbell is smarter than this, and she ought to be ashamed of herself. She is slinging the hits to people that actually care and matter. She's slinging the hits to people who get hurt by it. She's suggesting that if you're MAGA, you're a bad human being. That's what she said, right? That's what she said. Well, that should piss the voters off that voted for her. They still want you to believe that if you voted for Donald Trump, that makes you an evil person. And they still, some of them at least, believe that this country has decided that it wanted to vote itself out of democracy in some fashion. Sadly, leftism or statism has become a mental disorder. And we should state it clearly as such. Eric is in Nash with a thought on all of this next. Hello, Eric. Thank you for holding.
How's it going? I want to say longtime listener, and I want to say thank you. It's stations and shows like you that really stood up and was played a part in this victory for the American people. I mean, this was a victory for the American people, and against all of the celebrity endorsements, against the $1 billion, against the mainstream media, it was a huge victory. And man, yesterday, I think yesterday was more of shock and relief. And today we get to feel the joy that the left likes to about all the joy. So I'm really happy about today. But all in all, I think what we need to look at too, and this is a big problem, and I think there needs to be more investigation. Whatever you believe about 2020, there is no way that they lost 13 million votes. There's no way. I don't see how that's possible, and I think there needs to be more investigation into that. That's the whole population of Pennsylvania. And so I don't know, retroactively, look, if that didn't happen, if 2020 didn't happen, I don't know that.
I think it'll eventually be, and I've heard conversation, I've read a few things about this. I think eventually once all the votes are counted, because believe it or not, they're still counting on the West Coast. I think California has yet to get all of their vote totals in. All of those have to be assessed. That it'll land somewhere between 10 and 11 million. And I have a good bit to say about that, Eric, because I think a lot of those votes can be found in ballot harvesting and in just a depressed voter turnout on the part of the political left.
Sure. I don't know. I think, well, hopefully we get a good answer about that. But, that's a lot, especially, we're talking after Jan 6th, after the false convictions, after everything that they've thrown. Just really after putting, this was about women's rights and they're going to be taken away. It just does not sit well with me and seem right to me. Obama was one of the most popular candidates we've ever had in this country, and to get, more votes than Obama, that many, and then to see it come back to 60. She'll probably end with about 69 million. I'm assuming. It just doesn't make much sense to me. But with that being said, I think without 2020 and without what's happened in the last 4 years, at detriment to the country, I think it was a wake-up call to the American people. I don't think we would have had Elon Musk. I don't think we would have had Tulsi and Robert F. Kennedy and all these major supporters that have come together to unite the nation. So I think that's the best thing that could have happened. And, man, I'm just so happy. I think if he gets in there and does what he says, and since we got the triple threat, if we win the Senate and the House, which that looks like it's going to happen, I think we're in good shape.
Well, and thank you for the call. So I've got a lot to say on that point. And thank you, Eric, for dialing us up and for the kind words. And I would throw it right back at you. But people are questioning how in the world we could believe in the 2020 election cycle and the sheer numbers that we saw in 2020 when we're not seeing nearly those numbers in 2024. And was this not that most important of elections? I've got a number of things to say about that in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Friends, just because it's November, it does not mean that you should stop your pest control. I talk to J.K. Brister, Erica Brister, and the team at U.S. Pest about this all the time, and he fights against this, and rightly so. And it's not because he wants to reap the benefits of monthly service in the wintertime months. It's because he understands that the bugs move indoors. The bugs move into your crawl space. The roaches and the rodents and the mice, they move into your home when the weather gets cool. You need to protect against that, and you need to advance your service so that you're ready to go when the spring comes and all of the bug sex starts to happen. I said it. But that's what happens in the spring, and you need to prevent it happening in your home. Full-service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service is available for you at US Pest. Go to uspest.com. Please don't tell them that I said bug sex when you call 590-1260. That's 590-1260. Sign up today and prevent all of that nonsense happening in the winter and into the spring. Thank you to our good friends at US Pest.
Looks like they finally cleared that crash eastbound 40 there at the 2440 split. So things are getting back up to speed there on the East Loop downtown, also the South Loop. End of an era for Vols football and basketball. President Biden on the time he has left in the White House. State Department comments on transition to Trump. And this is not a joke about politicians. Monkeys are on the loose in South Carolina. Coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, just got a response from 4460 that said bug sex and spanking the monkey in hour number 1. I can't wait for the second and third hour of the Matt Murphy show today. I agree with you. Me either. I don't know what I'm going to say either.
I'm sure it'll get us in trouble.
I hope so. It is my duty. It is my honor and privilege. I have a gentleman from Latinos for Tennessee coming on the show next hour. Excited to talk to him about his experience at Mar-a-Lago last week with Donald J. Trump. He is Tommy Vallejos, and he joins us next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN Plus. My breakdown on the popular vote numbers. That is on the way next.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4's Amanda Harrah on the end of an era in Knoxville.
The longtime voice of the Vols, Bob Kessling, has just announced his plans to retire. The legendary play-by-play announcer spent more than 25 years calling games for Tennessee football and men's basketball. He was named lead announcer for the Vol Network in 1999 after taking over for John Ward. The UT graduate and Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer will step down at the end of this basketball season.
President Biden at the White House after saying he congratulated President-elect Trump and now he will help Trump's transition said this.
Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people.
State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says the agency's been preparing for a transition to a new administration, quote, for some time and will deal with changes in policy when President-elect Trump takes office, including on Israel.
There is one president at a time, and Joe Biden is the president, and we will continue to pursue the policies that he has set forward. When it comes to the Middle East, we will continue to pursue an end to the war in Gaza, an end to the war in Lebanon, a surge of humanitarian assistance, and that is our duty.
Meanwhile, Stephen Portnoy says
sources say the president-elect met yesterday with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and with Elon Musk, two men who are expected to hold senior roles in the next Trump administration. Musk is likely to have a perch overseeing federal spending, and Kennedy says he'd prefer to be something of a White House health czar. The Trump transition team is now sorting through possible picks to fill 4,000 roles in the executive branch, with some 1,200 requiring Senate confirmation.
President-elect Trump will inherit Russia's war on Ukraine, and today a top Russian official close to President Putin indicated the Russian government would be willing to negotiate an end to the war. Same goes for a Ukrainian politician close to President Zelensky. And this is not a joke about politicians. Monkeys are on the loose in South Carolina. Sherry Preston with more on what people in the Low Country are being told.
They're not infected with any disease. They're harmless and a little skittish. That's what the Yemassee, South Carolina Police Chief Gregory Alexander says about the 43 rhesus monkeys that escaped from a medical research lab this week. A new employee at the facility is getting the blame for not closing their cage door all the way. Law enforcement officials are using thermal imaging to try to find and re-trap the primates. They say again there's no danger to the public, but they're still encouraging people to steer clear of them and call them if they're spotted.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and boy, oh boy, did we celebrate with the Glock store on election night, keeping our Second Amendment rights intact in the state of Tennessee and beyond. This time of year, the Glock store is called to be thankful, and they want to say thank you for making 2024 such a wonderful year, and they are looking forward to 2025, and I am as well. Friends, they are thankful that we can freely express our opinions, and they are thankful that you can express yours as well. They have a beautiful retail showroom, an incredible and totally unique Shoot 270 shooting room. Those are the outward-facing parts of the business, but they have a manufacturing division. They have a business that employs right around 100 Nashvillians. So this November and all year long, we are thankful for the incredible support of Lenny McGill and the Glock store. And if you're listening to me, I bet you're thankful for our Second Amendment as well, and you should be too. So stop by the Glock store today. Say hello to Lenny and the rest of the crew. Go to the Shoot 270 rooms. Check those things out. You'll be happy you did. And thank you to our good friends at the Glock store. Once again, glockstore.com. Here we go. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 6 minutes after the hour. Thank you for being with us on this Thursday, November 7th. The week has flown by, it seems. You know, there was Monday, and it was all anticipation of Tuesday, and then there was Tuesday, which just flew by, and yesterday, I don't really remember it, and here we are today. We can continue to kind of decompress and figure out what the heck went on and why it happened. With you, the listening audience, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Would love to hear from you either via the phone lines or on the super text line as well. Speaking of the phone lines, we have a good friend of the show on the line with us. If you don't know the name Tommy Viejos, you will in just moments. He is the co-founder and executive director of an organization called Latinos for Tennessee. And Tommy joins us to talk about how those Latinos in Tennessee and around the country pushed Donald Trump over the edge and to the presidency for the 47th president of the United States of America. Tommy Viejos joins us on the Matt Murphy Show. Tommy, good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon, my brother. It's an honor to be with you this afternoon.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Before we get into the race itself and your analysis and what broke down, for those who don't know about Latinos for Tennessee, what a cool organization you co-founded and you're currently executive director of. Tell us a little about Latinos for Tennessee.
Yes, Latino for Tennessee was founded probably about 10 years ago by Raul Lopez and I. And it's an organization that we knew we needed to have in Tennessee because we knew the growth of Latinos coming. And we knew that historically Latinos had been on the liberal side, but there were so many of us that had conservative values. So we founded it together, and now years down the road, we realized that the four pillars of what we believe, leadership, faith, physical responsibility, and family were essential to what we value. I'm a pastor, and so what we're at today was a promise of yesterday when we founded that organization. Now we're getting more calls from across the state. We have 7 chapters, all the way down to Chattanooga, Knoxville, here in Middle Tennessee, Davidson County, Sumner County, Williamson County, and Montgomery County. So we knocked on doors and have done so many things to ensure that our state stays red, and crossed over the border to Georgia to help them.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little border hopping when it comes to elections, right?
Come on, my brother. Legal border hopping.
That's exactly right. I mean, do you feel like, Tommy, you're close to this, much closer than me, but I just feel like there's so much stereotyping of the Latino community within the mainstream media. Not us, not on Super Talk, and not even with some local media outlets that have the ability to communicate with you, but the national media. Does it frustrate you watching some of these more liberal networks and how they stereotype the Latino community in America?
Oh my God, does it ever? And what they fail to recognize is that the younger generation of Latinos have less muscle memory of their parents. And they didn't go as their parents. And so they put us all in a box and thought we were for all this illegal immigration, that we were for you know, a lot of things. They put us, and the white elites try to rename us from Latinos to Latino Latinx, and so what they failed to see was that we were churchgoers. We believed in more things than the culture things, and while we were proud of our tacos and our enchiladas, we were more concerned about the red, white, and blue and the security of our nation, and they failed to see that.
Tommy Viejos is our guest. He's executive director of Latinos for Tennessee. Did you go down to Florida to visit with Trump during the Latinos for Trump event?
Yes, we were honored. Raul and I were honored. I sat right behind. I was right there as it came broadcasted on all the broadcast networks, and I was right behind Trump. I was honored to open up for President Trump here at Municipal Auditorium in 2017. I've been honored to go to the White House 6 times while Trump was in office, and even to go down to the summit. And there was Latinos. And so Latinos, we're talking Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, we're talking Central America, South America, and of course, many of us that are native born here to America. And yes, we were there to be a part of that summit, and the dialogue was out of this world.
What was his message? I mean, we saw it and we saw clips. You were there, you were in the room, you kind of felt the spirit of the room. What was the message that you came away from? I mean, and obviously it translated into votes, and we'll talk about that in a moment, because the amount of Latinos that came out for Donald Trump during this election cycle was just incredible, and the likes of which we've not seen in at least 2 decades. But what was your takeaway message from Donald Trump, especially considering how the media try to mischaracterize him as, you know, he doesn't like brown people because he is so serious about border security? That equates to being against Latinos already here in the United States of America. I know that you know that's not the case, but what was the takeaway message for you, Tommy?
Well, the takeaway message for me, when I sat in that room and I heard President Trump come in, I've shaken his hand. He's called me. He's actually acknowledged me before when he was here for the Faith and Freedom Conference at the Gaylord Entertainment. Gave me a shout out. He's called me man of God. And I can tell you the takeaway was the same way I had from him for being the first ex-gangbanger, because that's my life previously before I came in the military and got saved. I opened up for him. And let me tell you something. He has the highest respect for Latinos, and it proved in that room, because the words he said, I'm going to change our economy. I'm going to secure our border. When he said secure our border, Latinos all in that room erupted. We didn't feel violated. We didn't feel racism. We didn't feel he was demeaning us. We didn't feel none of that. And I felt an energy coming out of that room, and every Latino organization that was in there went back to the respective cities and said, we got to get him across the finish line. And we did. And let me tell you, that's why he did better than Bush did. And, you know, he has done things even greater at greater numbers. Reagan only won 37%, Bush won 44%, and Trump won 46%. So that just shows you the energy. And he did things like no other president has ever done, and he energized us. And let me tell you, we got out of there, and what he done different, he energized the evangelical vote in the Latino community. That's what he did different.
Well, I agree with you, Tommy. And I would say this, too, and you tell me if I'm on track or if I'm wrong. The Democrats made this huge mistake of assuming that just because the people coming across the southern border illegally were brown, the people already here in a legal fashion would necessarily embrace those individuals that were doing it, quote unquote, the wrong way, and that the Latinos in America could not distinguish what Donald Trump was saying versus their characterization of what they were saying. In other words, Donald Trump wants the legal immigration process to be the rule of the day and the rule of law, and he recognizes that you can't continue to allow this illegality. And Democrats seem to think that the Latino community wouldn't want to embrace law and order, wouldn't want the things that Donald Trump wants, simply because some of the people that were violating the law were brown skinned and from, you know, places south of the border. And I just never experienced that in conversations that I had with Latinos or anyone for that matter.
Well, I'm born and raised in Roswell, New Mexico. Raised in a neighborhood that was all predominantly Hispanic. And I remember coming in the Army in 1980 and Ronald Reagan being the first president I ever voted for. He just ignited me. I was not politically involved in nature at all. Trump did the same thing to me. And he spoke to us, because when he spoke to us, he said, I want to secure your border. Let me tell you what that meant to Latinos in the southern border in Texas. That translates, you're going to provide us economic strength, and you're going to secure the future for our nation and for our future generation. And this is what happened in Cameron, Texas alone, in Hidalgo County. He won 41-9% of the vote, and it's a Mexican stronghold that Biden won with 58% in 2020. In Cameron County, at the very tip of the Texas Rio Grande, Trump beat Harris 53-47%. Biden won that county with 56% of the vote 4 years ago. Every border county in Texas turned to Trump. I like this one the best of all. Zapata County. You like? Do you hear? I said that. I said it with a Hispanic tone. Zapata. That was the revolutionary leader in Mexico. That is a historical county named after him. There was no GOP representation, and it flipped for President Trump.
Oh wow!
That's what Latinos are saying. We're tired of the rhetoric and you taking it for granted. The sleeping giant has awoken, and they're conservative, and they didn't realize it all along, and now they know it.
Latinos, Americans for Trump, Latinos for Tennessee. Tommy Viejos is with us today to discuss the incredible victory. What about here in Tennessee? I mean, I feel like we're unified regardless of background, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of where you came from. All of us here in the state of Tennessee seem to be fairly united. And I understand that there are some leftist thinkers in some of the bigger cities, but Tennessee is we're Trump country, yeah?
Oh, God, there's not a doubt. Well, let me just tell you how we flipped the script here. We did it ahead of Georgia because Georgia, when they got their two senators and Trump lost it, their two Democratic senators and Trump lost it, it's because there was no unification in Georgia. We seen that ahead of time. So we began to formulate a plan, and we started going to churches. One of the churches, a 5,000-member church right there on Dickerson Pike, met with us, said we don't want to be that church that loses it for our state. We took our governor there twice. Mark Green has gone there. We have had voter drives there with Turning Point. We have biblical citizenship Bible studies in small groups all across. We have built a coalition of over 250 churches, Hispanic churches. We're ahead of that. We're going now and we're doing this. And we're doing this because we realize, but here's our battle. Here's the battle we're having. Conservative foundations are giving to these liberal organizations. We fight the dollar thing. And so we're trying to get our state representatives, our state senators, our governors already on board. Our congressional leaders are already on board. But we got to get our leaders to realize we battle dollars. We spend our dollars trying to get these voters registered and we're going to keep our state red. And so we are a red state. President Trump has given us open doors for us here. But here's the other thing I'm going to just tell you. President Obama came to the state and raised money for Conexión America, which is the ultra-liberal, organization, and then Turk, which spent thousands of dollars, trying to advocate for change in our state. They even came against a candidate here in my city, Jimmy Peltz, who lost by 124 votes, and they're an ultra-left organization. So we battle them as Latino for Tennessee, and we want our those that have foundational dollars and conservative dollars to, hey, we need your help. We can't do it. We're out here fighting for everybody because we can say things that if a white person said it or somebody else, a Caucasian said it, they would look at, oh, you're crazy. But as a Latino, I can go into those back rooms and I can go into that church house and tell them, hey, let's get it right. This is not about your color of your skin. It's not about, your upbringing or your tacos or your enchiladas. This is about America. America first. I don't fly the Mexican flag because I wasn't born there. I fly the American flag because I was born here.
Tommy, you say these things and it gives me goosebumps. I get goosebumps. When you talk about flipping Hispanic counties for Trump, I get goosebumps because it tells me that the people are listening, they're engaged. People like you make sure that you get into the communities and you cut through the clatter, you cut through the nonsense, and you get to the truth of the matter. And you're right. You know what? I mean, the great Martin Luther King taught us these lessons in our modern times, and God Almighty teaches us these lessons through biblical teaching, right? That we are human beings, and we should embrace our common humanity as opposed to those things that divide us. And you guys are doing it every day. And I just want to know how we can help Latinos for Tennessee.
Well, let me tell you how you can help us out. We have a large group of individuals that volunteer their time We had chapters out of Rutherford County out there knocking on doors for Tim Rudd, out there knocking on doors for Mike Sparks. We had people down in Memphis knocking on doors for Gillespie. We had people knocking on doors for Elaine Davis and Latinos knocking on doors. If you think the value of some of our candidates winning here, in Pennsylvania, 5% was the difference in the total population that voted for Trump, even though 47% of Allentown, who has a Hispanic mayor, voted for Trump. So what can I say is those dollars, we need your help because we can't do it alone. And these organizations got multi-million-dollar accounts, and yet we operate sometimes on $50,000 a year contributions. So we need help because our social media, and sometimes we drive ourselves, we send our volunteers, and so we could use your help. If you could help us out, we would appreciate those dollars because nobody operates by free, and the NAACP don't do it. Turk don't do it. Turk gets multi-million-dollar grants, and Latinos for Tennessee, we get nothing. And so we need help. There's PACs out there. We do a lot of things for criminal reform. We educate them, and me being here with you, that's a plus right there. Because let me tell you, in Michigan, for example, Trump won a whopping 58% of Latino votes compared to this 39. So think about that. And in North Carolina, there's churches that we went to, man, their whole church came out in groves to vote. Think about that. That's the power of the Latino vote in America. And so they took us for granted. The Republican Party did. And let me tell you something. I've got to share this with you. Going to the White House for the very first time, we were coming in through the West Wing, and there's a Marine standing there, and he's Hispanic. I said, "How you doing there?" Because I'm retired military. I served 21 years in the Army, and I wore green. I wasn't a brown soldier. I was an American soldier. And when I seen that Marine, I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Man, I'm doing great." He goes, "I've never seen so many Hispanics. I've been here since Obama, and now for the first time I'm seeing Hispanic." I walked in, the receptionist was Latino. I went back there with Mercedes Schlepp, who her and her husband found a CPAC, and there was her receptionist for Columbia. I kept on going almost to the Oval Office, and I seen Stephen Miller go by, and one of his aides was a Hispanic. I seen blacks. I seen Asians. Don't come and tell me this president's racist when I just went in to the White House. I went to the West Wing, and I seen all these people representing the very fabric of our nation. So I'm here to tell people in Tennessee, let's not take this for granted and be a Georgia. Help me out.
Tommy, I could listen to you all day. It's so refreshing to hear from you. It's refreshing to talk with you. Come by and see us in studio sometime soon when you're in Nash. And final thought and final question, non-political question for you. Are you more of a Vandy fan nowadays because of Diego Pavia or what? And I don't know. And listen, I'm not asking you about that because he's Latino.
No.
He's from New Mexico. He went to school in Roswell, right?
Yes, he was born in Albuquerque. Played football with my nephew. Little league football.
Okay.
And then went to NIMI. It's called NIMI. He played for the Broncos. And then transferred to Las Cruces, became an Aggie, and came up here. And let me tell you, when he came on the scene, I got more texts about this kid. And I said, well, let me find out. Well, a lot of my friends are Vandies here. And, man, I have been following. I have never been so excited because I'm proud when somebody who succeeds like us. Because you know what? Man, every once in a while he'll throw a little curse word, but he proclaims the Lord a lot more. And he is an example of what can transpire if you live that dream.
That's
because,
right.
Look, I became the first Latino ever elected to the county commission in 2010, served 2 terms. And I didn't run as a Latino. I just happened to be brown, a proud veteran in Montgomery County. And that's why I love my state. We're the greatest state ever. I'm the first Mexican hillbilly, and I love it.
Well, I love it too, man. Thank you so much for everything you do, Tommy. And let's get together again real soon. Take care, my friend.
God bless.
All right, you too. God bless you. There's Tommy Villejos with Latinos for Tennessee. Find out more, go into Latinos for Tennessee online. Yeah, Diego Pavia originally went to school at, they call it NIMI, New Mexico Military Institute. Yeah, NMMI, New Mexico Military Institute, and then transferred over to New Mexico State, and then eventually to Vanderbilt. There you go. This guy, I'm telling you, Tommy is an absolute force, and God bless him for everything he does for our state and everything, all the messaging that they've gotten out on the ground. Those people are on the ground making sure that sadly that a lot of brown people in this country don't buy into the narrative being presented, the stereotypical, ridiculous narrative being presented by the mainstream media. Good on you. 25 after the hour, very late. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The best way to react to the 2024 election with us is by downloading the Super Talk 99.7 WTN app from the App Store.
Traffic, weather, and the content you want to hear. Matt and Brian, whether it's live audio streaming, video, or on-demand audio, it can be found by downloading and opening the Super Talk 99.7 WTN app.
Friends, if you need a second opinion on something that you've been told by your heating and air conditioning guy, I have a name for you. I have a company for you that I trust, that I believe in, that will give you that good second opinion. That is our man at Efficient Heating and Cooling, Jeff Eddy. Now, I would actually encourage you to go ahead and call Jeff Eddy for the first telephone call that you make. That way you don't have to go through the second opinion nonsense. But if you're unsure and you don't know whether or not your heating and air guy is trustworthy, call the man that I trust with my heating and air conditioning unit. Call Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. The best way to head off costly repairs is to do regular maintenance work, and they certainly encourage you to do that. But if you do have a repair that needs to be made, it's time to call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, they're never going to tell you that you need to replace if you don't. It is a commitment that Jeff has made from the beginning, that they're not going to default to replacement because that costs you more money, especially in the long run when you're using your heater for years less than you ought to be. Thank you to Efficient Heating and Cooling for everything they do. So give them a call today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or go to efficienthvac.net.
Got a crash reported, 24 eastbound at James Robertson Parkway. That's going to be the East Loop, eastbound downtown. Got a Fed rate cut. President Biden speaks on the election. And sad news to report about a crowd favorite on ESPN's College Game Day. Coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess we'll wait for that together. But my mind goes to some particular places. But we'll find out together when Ken Weaver's newscast comes in just mere moments on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Great conversation with Tommy Viejos, who's a great guy. I've had an opportunity to meet him. He does some work with the wonderful Men of Valor organization and Raul Lopez over there, and created Latinos for Tennessee, co-founded that organization with Raul for the purpose of not only breaking down certain stereotypical walls, but encouraging Latinos in this state and around the Southeast and around the nation that, you know what, don't be afraid. It's perfectly all right to believe as you believe, to honor your faith, to honor those traditions that are so important to you, and at the same time recognize the best direction for you, your family, your state, and your country. And so many Latinos did that. And let me tell you, this is a huge gain among Latino men, especially Latino voters, generally speaking. The best since I think he bested, if my numbers are correct, Tommy used the numbers, but I think Donald Trump this time around, we're looking at about 46% of the Latino vote, which would exceed the 44% gotten by George W. Bush, which would push us back, I think, to 1972 in terms of amount of voters and percentages behind those votes within the Latino community. Kudos to him, and thank him for coming on, and support them if you have the ability. It's 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And again, we got a brand new crash eastbound East Loop downtown right there at James Robertson Parkway. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Well, the Fed just cut the interest rates by 1/4 point to the 4.5 to 4.75% range. Rate cuts typically lower borrowing costs for consumers and businesses. Election 2024.
We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree.
President Biden says he congratulated President-elect Trump on his victory, said he promised a peaceful transition, something State Department spokesman Matthew Miller says the agency's been preparing for some time.
We're doing this to get ready for either a Trump transition or a Harris transition, is to put together briefing materials, both on policy and procedures, and to get them ready and to try and anticipate questions that the incoming transition team will have.
President-elect Trump's transition effort up and running. Sources say the president-elect met yesterday with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Elon Musk, two men who are expected to hold senior roles in the next Trump administration. Tonight in Nashville, Metro Council to discuss processing rape kits faster. A resolution calls for sending $250,000 to Metro Police to help outsource sexual assault kits to private vendors. The state did it, says they're processing kits 3 times faster. Concerning the mountain fire in Ventura County, California, the blaze scorching more than 14,000 acres, forcing thousands to evacuate. Fire officials saying the wildfire's been driven by wind and is 0% contained.
This is a challenging fire, and it's wind-driven fire, and so we are still at zero containment as we're still focusing on life safety and structure defense.
Well, not sure if you follow college football, but if you do, you likely know about ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit and his beloved dog, Ben. Well, Herbstreit just announced that his best buddy has passed away after a long battle with a type of cancer. Herbstreit says it had spread through Ben's organs, and there was nothing left to do. Ben was a crowd favorite on College game day. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You know, I'm proud of every person and every business that I talk about on the Matt Murphy radio show, but I am particularly proud of being associated with the Men of Valor. What an honor to be associated with this organization because of the fine work that they do in our prison systems. They're in every prison in the state of Tennessee. Why? Because that's where the bad folks are, and they want to minister to them. They want to disciple to them, and they want to turn their lives around through the power of God Almighty and his people. Men of Valor needs you in that endeavor. They need help. They need either donations or volunteers in the prison systems, at their campus for their aftercare reentry service. They need job partners and Bible study teachers, mentors that can help men in their everyday lives and help keep them on a path of sustainable success, a path away from recidivism, away from the prison system and the prison life that they find themselves in. Will you help? Go to movministry.com for more information. That's movministry.com. Join Men of Valor in helping set the captives free and making their community a safer and better place to live for all of us. movministry.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I've made so many promises and I've paid off so little of them. But we did talk about the monkeys escaping in Florida. South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Low country is South Carolina.
So the update, Ken, that I think I've heard you mention this. I think we have this now, that the monkeys do not have any diseases.
No diseases, according to officials.
Okay. Well, I'm all in on Team Monkey. I don't know where you got me. I mean, Ken, this is where Ken normally says, I just do the news, boys.
I just do the news, boys.
I'm firmly on Camp Monkey. What about you, Bell?
I am of the opinion that, considering what we're being told, these monkeys probably have COVID-20.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And who's telling us that?
Them.
They are.
Them.
Right.
Well, no, if they
better believe them.
No, if the monkeys had COVID-20, they wouldn't tell us.
That's what I'm saying. They're saying they're disease-free.
I
they're
see what you're
fine.
saying.
There's nothing wrong with them. These monkeys got COVID-20.
Uh-huh.
I like how they're blaming it on a new employee.
40-some-odd monkeys got out because one door wasn't closed.
You know how it goes.
It's the newbie.
You know how it goes. He's watching TV, eating some Fritos, and the monkey's sneaking. Yeah, can you imagine? He's sitting there with that old one of those old school TV with rabbit ears on it, eating Cheetos. The monkeys are sneaking behind him. They come back with a wagon. They come back. They got more monkeys in the wagon. There's a monkey with a little hook. They get his keys off the wall, and they're driving his car out of the complex.
Who let the monkeys out? Carl, the new guy?
Carl, can we see you in the office, please? What? I'm watching my shows. I'm watching the monkeys. Cage just swinging, doors open. Monkeys are long gone, bro. Well, I root for the monkeys. I hope that
43 of them on the loose in South Carolina's Low Country.
43 monkeys. My goodness gracious. Every time I think about monkeys, especially those, did you say those rhesus monkeys?
Rhesus macaques.
Macaques, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what Jocko Flocko was when he rode in the NASCAR race back in the day. This is a great story, Ken, if you've never heard it.
I got to hear this.
Okay, so the Tim Flock was a Grand National, this was the precursor of NASCAR, Grand National champion racer. I mean, he was the creme de la creme back in the 1950s. And the owner of the race car that he drove, I mean, this guy was not some fly-by-night driver. He was the guy, the man, along with like Lee Petty and some of these others, like Junior Johnson.
Okay.
And a guy went to, this fella who owned his car, went with his wife to a department store in Atlanta, Georgia, and saw a monkey for sale. And he bought the monkey, and he took the monkey back, and he said, this will be great. I'm going to make the monkey a little driver's suit, and he's going to ride in the car with you. And we're going to call him Jocko Flocko. And I'm not making this up. So obviously, they don't ask anybody's permission. They just put a little seat in the side of his car and give him a little helmet and a little suit, and they put him in the car. And they say, hey, come watch the monkey drive the car with the guy. So Tim Flock, Jocko Flocko. So they ride him in a race. And Big Bill France owns NASCAR, right? He is the head honcho of NASCAR. And after the race, I think Tim Flock won the race. And all of the people are coming down out of the stands. They want to see the monkey. They want to look at the monkey. They want to see what's up.
Oh, my gosh.
And, of course, there were rules against riding around with monkeys in your car.
I bet.
And so the other drivers and the other team owners, they went to Bill France. And they said, what are you going to do about this, Big Bill? He can't be doing this. And Bill France looked at all the people around the car and how excited they were. And he looked at him and he said, I don't see a monkey. And turned around and walked off. And so, because that dude understood business, right?
Oh, yes,
He wanted the money.
Yes, sir.
And so they rode around with his monkey for like 3 or 4 races until, and I'm not making this up, back in the day in NASCAR, the way that you checked tire wear, there were flaps in the floorboard. And they had a little chain on the flap on either side. And you could pull the flap up and see, and if you saw white on the walls of the tires, you knew your tires were getting worn out and you needed to go to the pits. Well, the monkey had seen Tim Flock do this.
Oh.
And so the monkey unbuckled himself and went to the flap and opened the flap. And a rock flew up and hit the monkey in the head, and the monkey went absolutely guy was leading the race. Tim Flock was this sounds like I'm making this up. I promise you I'm not. He had to pit. He gets into the pits, pulls his window down, throws the monkey out of the car, gets back in the race, and finishes third.
Why would you not just throw the monkey out while you're driving?
Well, I mean, you don't want to hurt the monkey.
Can't do that to a little fella.
Hey, if that monkey's going to mess with your odds.
Well, poor little monkey. So that was that's the story, absolute true story of Jocko Flocko.
Jocko Flocko.
And his time in the NASCAR series back in the 1950s.
There is no point which that will never
be funny.
Yeah.
And I just ask, it's like going to Ken Weaver, an award-winning newsman.
Literally an award-winning newsman.
I'm not exaggerating. And say, Ken, we've got an addition to the news department. Meet your new colleague, the monkey.
The monkey.
It's Jocko Flacco.
So Jocko Flacco, he's going to do the midday news for you, Weaver.
I'm Jocko Flacco, White House press secretary.
I don't think you'd get the real story about these monkeys in South Carolina if Jocko Flacco were doing the news. That's a different news perspective altogether. Oh, that's great stuff. That's the real news. You know what? I'm so glad the presidential election is over so we can get to the real news.
Get down to the real news. Yes, sir.
The nitty-gritty on the monkey story out of South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
I do have to get back to the presidential election in a couple of ways, though, and I'm going to do it right now. So, wait, why has Donald Trump's face been hold on a second. What just happened here?
What?
On my Fox News site where I've got my – oh, there it goes. They popped him back up. They had replaced Donald Trump's head with one of those little eggs like you see on the X machine, but his picture got popped back up.
Oh.
Okay, I'm better now because I'm like, what did we do on Fox News? So I don't understand what's taking the West Coast so long, but if I scroll over, and I'm looking at my handy-dandy map here on the election of 2024, and if I scroll over the various states, and we've well established that these are state elections, and we figure out the state electors, and they pledge themselves to vote for a particular candidate, and most of them have pledged themselves to vote in a way consistent with the desires of their state. We know all of that. But you got to count all those votes. And even if your state has gone for one candidate or another, even if we know that, for example, Tennessee is obviously Trump country, or Ohio, or Oklahoma, or Kansas, or Missouri, or Iowa, and on it goes, that you still have to count all those votes because every vote matters and every vote deserves to be counted. Why is it taking some of these states, particularly blue states, so long to count their votes? I scroll over Georgia, for example, and I see that Georgia is 98.37% in. And I would suggest that those votes that have not been counted are perhaps absentee votes or provisional ballots that have to be tested and whatnot to make sure that they are legit votes. Scroll to South Carolina. 99% of the vote in South Carolina is in. Alabama, 99%. Mississippi, 98.75%. Let's go up to the Pennsylvania, 98.72%. But then you start getting to some of the more leftist communities or leftist states, if you will. Now, Illinois is not a leftist state. Sadly, it's a state that is red, that has one huge county in it, Cook County, that's Chicago, Illinois, that turns that state blue. 95% of the vote in. And on it goes till we get out to Colorado. Colorado, a blue state, has only counted 77% of their votes. Now, we know Colorado is going for Kamala Harris, but why is this taking so long? Arizona, which has yet to be decided in terms of the presidential election and, more importantly, the Senate election involving Kari Lake, only 69% of the vote is in Arizona. In Nevada, only 90% in, and Trump has a skinny 50.95% to 47.24% lead. It would feel as if you could go ahead and call Nevada for Donald Trump. Now, it's one thing to get frustrated over the results of the presidential election in these states, but there are also statewide elections. There are U.S. Senate elections to be determined. And to the point, did you know, as an example, do you know what percentage we're at in California? Now, California's going for Kamala Harris. There's no question about it, although Donald Trump's gotten over 40% of the vote out there. They've only reported 55% of the vote in California so far. Oregon is at 77%. Washington State at 79%. What in the hell are... What is taking so long? It is shameful and ought to be embarrassing that California, Oregon, and Washington, 3 states that have already been declared for Kamala Harris because those states will go for Kamala Harris, Arizona and Nevada. And I understand Arizona and Nevada, they're getting most of the most of the attention because they've not actually been declared for one candidate or another. But I'm wondering, why cannot liberals count? Wendy writes in, and she's right. I think this has something to do with it. I was going to count these ballots, but then I got high. I mean, in Colorado, maybe that's what it is. In California, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Washington, Oregon, these are all dope states. What is taking so long? It ought to be illegal to take this long. How is it exactly the state of Florida, a state that had almost 11 million ballots cast, can report 99% of their vote in an hour after the polls close? The state of Florida, it was not much more than 1 hour in that we saw the entire vote total happen. And yet, here we are on Thursday afternoon at 1:50 in the afternoon, worrying about House races in the House of Representatives and Senate races in the United States Senate, yet to be decided or declared because they can't get their butts in gear and count the votes. Now, it looks like Kari Lake is behind in the state of Arizona, and that's all well and good. I mean, you know, it is what it is, in other words. I don't know that there are any things going on from a shenanigan standpoint. Now, Renee says, I think AP declared Arizona and Nevada for Trump. Well, maybe that's so. But it does not mean that we don't have other things to do. House of Representatives races, Senate races. The Senate will go to the Republicans this time around because they've already flipped 3 seats. But the House is up for grabs, folks. We're going to talk to Representative Gary Palmer about that coming up in just about 15 minutes or so. Right now, Republicans have 209 House seats. They flipped 6, and they are now at +2 in the margin. Democrats have flipped 4 seats. They're -2 in the margin, meaning Republicans have picked 2 up, and all they need to do is hold steady, and they will win the House of Representatives. But we still have seats to be decided in Arizona, Arizona District Number 2. Out in California, there's a bunch of seats out there that need to be decided. And believe it or not, some areas in Washington State and other places are red. And one wonders if those things are going to be counted anytime soon. It ought to be an embarrassment. Every state in the union should look at Florida as to how they're doing things and take up Florida's way of voting. If you have issues here in Tennessee, thankfully we don't. It is 1:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and all month long, our friends at Kraft Body Scan, they're offering a couple's heart and lung scan for only $149. Now, these scans normally are valued at around $2,500, which means that you are saving an incredible amount with Kraft Body Scan. If you're looking for a simple and non-invasive way to check out your heart and lung health, this is a great way to do it. And take it from me, I have done it. I've done the full body scan in the past, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. These scans are a serious game changer, inasmuch as you sleep better when you know that you don't have anything to worry about. And we've heard stories of lives saved. Folks, I don't wish this on anyone, but if you have something going on inside of your body, be it cancerous or otherwise, you need to know as quickly as possible. And these CT scans give you that information as quickly as possible, oftentimes long before you experience any symptoms on that issue. So this month, let's take a proactive step. I'm so thankful for Kraft Body Scan, and you should be as well, toward better health through early detection. Let's book a couple's heart and lung scan. TogetherWeScan.com is the website. TogetherWeScan.com, or call 615-436-1000. 436-1000.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Well, the Federal Reserve making a quarter-point interest rate cut. Here's Alexis Christoforous with what this means for borrowers and the economy as a whole.
It means that borrowing costs are coming down. They're coming down slowly. We're going to need a number of these interest rate cuts over the course of months into next year for people to really start to feel the effects. But what this does is it lowers borrowing costs and interest rates for things like credit cards, auto loans, home equity loans, small business loans, and hopefully mortgages.
Election 2024. Republicans have won another seat in the House. The Associated Press says Jeff Hurd won Colorado's 3rd congressional district. Currently belongs to Representative Lauren Boebert, who ran and won Colorado's 4th district, leaving the 3rd district open. President Biden says he has congratulated President-elect Trump on his victory and promised to help with the transition. Then he told Democrats,
Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says she does not have any information on any calls between President Biden and any world leaders after the election, but says the hope is that the U.S. continues a leadership role.
His message to world leaders about how important it is to have our participation, Americans' leadership on the world stage, and what that means. And we've been able to see that for the last 3+ years, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Indo-Pacific.
Well, today, a top Russian official close to President Putin indicated the Russian government would be willing to negotiate an end to its war on Ukraine. A Ukrainian politician close to President Zelensky told ABC News Ukraine would also go into talks, but said the freezing of the conflict had to be accompanied with real security guarantees that would ensure Russia could not restart the war in the future. A group of Tennessee lawmakers trying to get rid of property taxes, at least on the state level. Republican lawmakers proposed a state constitutional amendment yesterday to block the state from issuing a property tax. This would mean only local governments could raise property taxes. The joint resolution would have to pass the legislature, then Tennesseans would vote on it in 2026. Tonight, Metro Council will discuss giving Metro Police $250,000 to use to speed up processing sexual assault kits. It would pay for outsourcing to private vendors, which the state did, and says they're now processing rape kits 3 times faster. And concerning the mountain fire in Ventura County, California, the blaze has scorched more than 14,000 acres, forcing thousands to evacuate. Fire officials saying the wildfire has been driven by wind and is 0% contained. Here's Jim Fryoff, Ventura County Sheriff.
We're expecting high winds again next week, so it's critical that we all stay prepared for more fire weather.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Defend Systems. I never want you to have to utilize the training that Defend Systems offers you, because that means that something negative is happening in your business, workplace, in your school, in your church, or any place that you've gathered with others. But the fact of the matter is, the dangerous world that we live in necessitates this type of training, and it's more important than ever. These trainers at Defense Systems, Brink, Fiddler, Tracy, Gloria, Adam, and the rest of the team, they're incredible at what they do. They offer active shooter response training, workplace violence prevention training, emergency and intruder action plans, rapid response medical, all customized to your facility. In this dangerous world, I would tell you that the possibility of you being attacked in your workplace is very, very minimal. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to suggest it's going to happen to you, but I am here to tell you that the chances are not zero. And that is why hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained with the best, with Defend Systems. Call 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or go to defendsystems.com. And when you do, please tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Defend Systems. Hold on, I've got to tell Bell Case something before I welcome you back to the show. Shut up! Tell me what to do. You know, you see there, we got guests on the line, we got folks waiting, and you did this to me.
And you're yawning at the audience.
You forced me to do this. I can't help myself. I'm very sleepy. Wasn't able to sleep last night. Woke up every 30 minutes or so. I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to prevent artificial energy because I'm limiting my amount of caffeine intake, and Bell Case picking on me for trying to be better. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
Horrible, horrible human being.
You?
Yeah. I'm just a terrible
Well,
individual.
at least we can agree on that.
Okay. Let's talk to Gary.
Bell K's back behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible, watching me yawn on Super Talk Television. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. If you want to go back and screen capture that yawn, I suppose you could do so. Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak, fresh off another award-winning newscast. And our guest on the hotline is a good friend of mine. He's been a friend for a long, long time. He's a fine representative out of the state of Alabama, out of the 6th Congressional District, and he also is in Republican leadership in the House of Representatives. And I thought no better person to tell us where he thinks we are and where we are going in terms of leadership in the House, because obviously anything that Donald Trump wants to do from a legislative standpoint really depends on whether or not the House is held by the Republicans. We are joined by Republican Party Committee Chairman and 6th Congressional District Representative and my good friend Gary Palmer. Gary, how's it going, my friend?
Good. It's exciting and ready to get to work.
I didn't feel like there was ever a doubt. I kid. Obviously, that's my dry sense. I mean, could you I felt like we had a good shot at Pennsylvania, and I felt like if Pennsylvania went red, then we would see Donald Trump back in the White House again. But I don't know that any one of us anticipated this. Tell me about your feelings leading up to the election. Before we talk House and Senate, which is obviously important, talk to me about what happened Tuesday regarding the presidency.
Well, first of all, as you might imagine, I had all kind of people calling me wanting to know what's going to happen and all of this. And I like to underpromise and overdeliver. But the day before the election, I talked to one of Trump's guys, and I talked with them before, and they did not want anyone to tell what they were seeing in their data.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy the day before the election said, "Well, let me put it this way: we're looking at Nevada and early voting in the 2 elections previous that Trump ran. They never finished ahead in early voting in Nevada." He said, "Gary, we're ahead by 43,000. And they've now called, at least Real Clear Politics has called Nevada and Arizona for Trump. So it's a clean sweep. He not only breached the blue wall, Matt, he tore it down. And I was on a TV interview yesterday, and they asked me, well, what do you think accounts for this? This is a dynamic turn, a dramatic turn for the country. And I said, I think it's fairly simple. The Democratic Party has become the party of extremists, and this is not a country of extremists.
That's well said. That's well said. Well, with all of their attempts to characterize, and I think we would both agree, mischaracterize as Donald Trump as evil. And it felt like they were getting overly dramatic because they recognized the writing on the wall. They didn't really seem to have, and I'm not here to, I mean, look, there's plenty of time to diagnose what went wrong with their plan, but it didn't feel like they had a plan for the American people, and all they could do was name call, and the American people saw through that. And I find myself being so proud of all of the people across America. And I know some of them are very disappointed and they're very upset and they've drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. But I'm proud of the American people overcoming what I consider to be a media effort on the most part. And there are exceptions, obviously Fox News, Newsmax, maybe News Nation as well. The mainstream media went all in on this Democrat narrative, and the American people saw beyond it. It just makes me incredibly proud, Gary.
Well, I know Taylor Swift probably listens to your show every day, and I have a message for Taylor. Your endorsement will not make groceries cheaper. It will not make household utilities less expensive. It won't help senior citizens pay for their medicine, and it certainly will not secure the border. And that's what drove this election.
We just had a conversation with a man by the name of Tommy Viejos, who is the head of Latinos for Tennessee. And Tommy had the honor and privilege of sitting down with Donald Trump last week, and I was congratulatory to him for getting the word out because he's on the ground every day. I mean, we have not seen Latinos support a presidential candidate like this. I think the support exceeds George W. Bush in the mid-2000s, Gary. I think you have to go all the way back to Richard Nixon in 1972.
Well, here in the 6th District of Alabama, we have a Hispanic business owner. He owns a company called Trash Taxi, the big trash trucks that people see picking up their trash out in front of their homes, and he has them painted like a yellow cab. But this case, he had a truck stripped down and this was in 2020 when he started this, with Trump on the side of his trash truck, and Hispanic business owner. And the thing that really encourages me about this, Matt, is that I know so many African Americans who are Christians. They work hard. They're solid people. I know so many Hispanic people who have those same values. And I think the country, and I hope this is true, I think the country's coming together around what we value, what we put our faith in. And it's really not, I really hope it's not about the politics. I hope it's not about red and blue. I think if that's what's happening, I think we've got a chance.
Well, I want to talk about priorities come day one in January in just a moment. But before we get down to that, we have to figure out what our Congress is going to look like. It looks like, that the Senate will be back into a Republican majority. Looks good for the House of Representatives. I know, Gary, in your position in leadership, you're in conversation with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. How do you guys feel about the Republicans holding the House?
I just got off the phone with Mike just a little while ago. We're going to hold the House. We think we're going to be in the mid-220s. We might be a little bit above. We might hit 224. I don't know that for sure, but we've got. I just talked with Marionette Miller Meeks. She won her first race by 6 votes. We call her a six-pack, but she's in a very good position. I talked to Mike Garcia out in California that we're going to know a whole lot more today when they have another drop. It's really weird how they do this. They count and they'll release the numbers at 5 o'clock each day. So it'd be 7 o'clock in Nashville. We'll know where he is, but we've got some real opportunities. I think McCormick's going to win in Pennsylvania in that Senate seat. But this was, and the headwinds against us in terms of Democrat money is unbelievable. Talked to Ken Calvert out in California. It looks like he's going to win his seat. But they spent $23 or $24 million trying to win a House seat. It's unbelievable. And so I feel good about where we are. We know what we've got to do as soon as Trump sits down at the desk in the Oval Office again. What we need is everybody to stick together, understand that you don't do everything all in one great stroke. You've got to work these things through the process, and I think this is going to be the most definitive 15 to 18 months in the history of the country.
Considering that you're right, considering that we have the House of Representatives in Republican hands, the Senate in Republican hands, and Donald Trump is our 47th president of the United States, what do you? I mean, you're the policy chair, so you're kind of one of the go-to guys prioritizing where the House goes first. Talk to us about priorities that you have discussed with Speaker Mike Johnson, others in leadership, and maybe even the other body, the United States Senate, and even the incoming Trump administration. What do you think you can accomplish best and most quickly?
Well, one of the things that the Trump administration is going to take action on immediately is securing the border. And I think the fact that Kamala and some of these other Democratic candidates came out and all of a sudden had this revelation that they needed to support the border is going to be helpful. We've also got to immediately roll back these regulations imposed by the Biden administration, which most people don't think about regulatory cost as a hidden tax. But just in 3 years and 9 months that Biden was in office, they added over $2 trillion in regulatory costs. Matt, that's about $47,000 per household in hidden cost. And so I think he's going to take action by executive order. I've already introduced, I think, 25 or 26 resolutions to roll back regulations. We're going to hit that hard. We have to extend and make permanent the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act because it expires next year. And if it expires, if we don't get that done, it's going to be the equivalent of about a $4 trillion tax increase over the next 10 years. So we got to do that. And then on energy, I've had conversations with the Trump team about what we need to do on energy and critical minerals. Had a long conversation yesterday with one of the senior economic advisors, Steve Moore, who works with Art Laffer, who's there in Nashville. But he's also advising the White House about the fact that we can almost collateralize our debt to a manageable point with the value of our energy resources and our critical minerals. And we've got huge opportunities, and that is going to have an immediate impact on inflation in terms of bringing inflation down. So I could go on. I'd nerd out on you, and you've been around enough.
I love that. That's why I call you. I love it. I mean, I love it because this is how we affect change. You've got to get down into the weeds on the policy issues in order to see the real change in American households. I mean, what do you say to people who say, "Oh, well, now that Trump's coming back in, we saw the stock market. I mean, they responded incredibly. They like the stability of knowing that somebody's going to be there that is a pro-business president, that's not going to overburden businesses with regulations and that sort of things from the executive perspective." But do you urge caution regarding inflationary rates? Do you urge caution involving people walking into the grocery store and seeing the price of goods and expecting that will go down? Will that take time, Gary?
Yeah, of course it will, especially on food, because you got to understand that the food that we're buying now was harvested a few months ago, except in places like California where they rotate the type things that they're growing because their climate doesn't really go through what we go through in Alabama and Tennessee.
Right.
But let me tell you how it will impact things on the front end. Just by opening up our natural gas resources, energy futures will immediately be affected, and I think they're going to come down. And on how that impacts food, about 60% of the increase in the food prices that Biden caused was energy cost. 80% of the cost of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, which is the fertilizer that feeds the world, is natural gas. So it's not stuff that the average person knows about, but they understand it. And they understand that there are ingredients that go into making bread, but it really starts with the seed going into the ground and the fertilizer and all the equipment. All of that got the increased cost of energy got compounded multiple times before it ever got to your kitchen table, Matt. And so that's where we're going to start. There's some other things we got to do. We got to get government spending under control because that's inflationary. And I've already talked about regulations. In his first term, I worked directly with the Trump administration on rolling back regulations. In 4 years, the Trump administration reduced regulatory costs by over $200 billion. Well, that's like cutting. It reduced the regulatory cost per household by about $10,800. So those are the things that I think are going to have a big impact. And then I do think the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which, by the way, produced massive increases in revenue after the second year, is really going to be a positive because it's going to put money back in people's pockets when they're really struggling. And I think it's going to have a very positive economic impact. But it takes time for these things to go into effect. There's kind of a lag between the policy and the result.
I know we're only just now kind of realizing that Donald Trump will be the next president and that we'll hold on to the House and we'll hold on to the Senate. So I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit. But, first Trump term, there was a lot of consternation even amongst Republicans. There were some Republicans that were a little concerned about how he would govern. And, I would describe them maybe as a little more never-Trumpers than others. I don't get the sense that is the case. Are you excited about the possibilities that exist in this next session of Congress in the sense that if Republicans seem more unified in their messaging, more unified in their spirit, and more unified in their purpose than perhaps I've ever seen them?
Well, I think it's the most unified I've really seen it since I've been in Congress. Now, there's always potential for drama from some people wanting to challenge leadership or something like that. But I really think what we've got here is a very steely-eyed view of the world and the responsibility that's laid on our shoulders. I think a lot of people want to talk about the opportunity, Matt, but they really don't want to talk about the responsibility and the accountability that comes with it. And I think there's a sense, at least among the ones that I've talked with, that an awful lot is being expected of us, and we've got to step up to the plate. There's no time for factions and drama, and we've got to work hand in hand with the Trump administration. And what should really encourage your listeners is in his first term, Trump brought in a lot of smart people, high character people, a lot of them. Really good people, but they had never worked in this type of environment where you've got a House and Senate you got to work with. You've got all of these deep state people trying to subvert what you're trying to do. And it was a very rocky start, as illustrated by the failure to really get the health care bill passed. Of course, McCain killed it in the Senate. That's not going to be the case. This group, America First Policy Institute, led by a great friend of mine, Brooke Rollins, they have put together a very clear path for what needs to be done, and they have vetted. My guess is by now they've vetted over 400 people to fill key positions in the administration, and so we're going to go in this time with a very clear-eyed view of what we've got to do and how we've got to work with the Trump administration to get it done.
Bell, forgive me, I got like a minute or two left with Gary. But Gary, several people are asking this question on our text line, and it's funny to me. It makes me laugh because I'm just pitching you the softball, buddy, and you're just gonna knock it out of the park. They want to know about budgets, continuing resolutions, and whether or not it has been a mantra of Gary Palmer since he's been in Congress that we get back to regular order and we do things the way that our founding fathers intended it. Gary, what can we expect out of this new Congress with regard to budgets and regular order and doing things the way that they ought to be done?
Well, we have a budget, and it actually balances in 10 years with no gimmicks. The budget chairman is Jody Arrington from Texas, and he and I have been working on this together along with other people, not just me. And he and I are also working on a way to get our debt to GDP back down into a manageable level, 60 to 70% of our gross domestic product. So that's a top priority with us. In terms of continuing resolutions, I just talked with one of the appropriators, and we're going to have possibly another CR. We want to avoid that. Maybe just clear the decks and take one for the team to get through this fiscal year so that we give President Trump a clean slate to work with so that we get our appropriations done. We don't have any more of these continuing resolutions. The thing that we're going to run into, and everybody needs to understand this, we do not want to give up the filibuster in the Senate, because if we were to lose the majority again, we don't want them to be able to do things like pack the court. So, again, like I said, we have a very clear idea of what is in front of us, what our responsibility is, and the accountability that we have for this. The last thing I want to say is going back to something you raised earlier, Matt, about the unity that you're seeing right now across the country and the number of minorities that have come in to work with us, to help us. And I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, or yesterday it was, that in his inaugural address, you may remember this, Biden pledged to unify the country.
Yeah.
After 3 years and 9 months of this reckless policy, he did exactly what he promised. The country is now unified, but not behind him, behind Donald Trump.
So in an odd way, Joe Biden fulfilled his promise.
Yeah, that's the one promise he kept.
Gary, it's good to catch up with you. Come see me when you're in Nashville. I promise to answer my phone next time, okay? Tell Miss Ann I said how much we care for her.
I will.
All right.
Tell Erica hello.
We
All
will.
right.
Take care. There's Gary Palmer. He's in leadership, senior leadership in the House of Representatives, expected to keep the House or the Republicans in the next session of Congress. 26 after the hour, very late. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here. What if your pain was gone? Many of us live with pain. Through the years, we just accept that you're going to have certain pains in your body. Imagine the freedom and possibilities if I told you that the pain that you have in your back, in your neck, in your hips, in your elbows, wherever it might exist, is gone. Well, Dr. Gill and the Dr. Gill Center, they have helped thousands of people just like you get out of pain over the last 30 years, and they can help you too. They've helped me. I don't just talk about them on the radio. I am a patient of the Dr. Gill Center, and I trust this team explicitly with my health. You don't have to settle for a clinic that doesn't put you first. Choose a place that listens. Choose the Dr. Gill Center. They care about you. They have solutions to help get you out of pain and stay out of pain without needles, without downtime, and without pills. Don't take a pill. Call Dr. Gill and the Dr. Gill Center for back, neck, and pain relief. 615-882-4838. 882-4838 or callmepainfree.com. That's callmepainfree.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Well, the Federal Reserve making a quarter-point interest rate cut today. Not that aggressive half-point cut we saw in September, but the second interest rate cut we have seen now in the past 4 years. Federal Reserve making clear with this announcement that they believe inflation's come down enough, is close enough to its 2% target that the economy can handle another interest rate cut.
Inflation has eased substantially from a peak of 7% to 2.1% as of September.
Well, today's cut lowers borrowing costs and interest rates for things like credit cards, auto loans, home equity loans, small business loans, and maybe mortgages. Election 2024, Karen Travers covering President Biden's address to the nation today.
President Biden urged Americans to come together after the election.
I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other.
He praised his vice president, saying she ran an inspiring race she should be proud of.
And everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much. Her character.
Transition from the Biden administration to a Trump administration will include a meeting between the two, says White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Details still being worked out.
The president obviously invited the president-elect to the White House for them to meet. Our teams, their team and our team are working on that, and we certainly will share once we lock something in the near future.
End of an era. The Vol Network and Tennessee Athletics announcing today that renowned announcer Bob Kessling will retire after the basketball season. Kessling's been the voice of the Vols for 26 years, but he's been part of the Vol Network for 5 decades, the longest-serving member in the organization's 75-year history. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
That tapers off on Monday. Highs this weekend.
All right, so we fought the good fight this past Tuesday night. What is next? Well, one of the things that can be next for you is Coin. It is the conservatives' credit card. Don't funnel millions of dollars to the left like other cards do. Coin advances conservative values and give to conservative charities. Now, you might be asking, how do you know, Murphy? Because I did my research before I decided to talk good about Coin on the radio. I did a little research, and I know that Coin was started for the purpose of giving back to conservative causes. Earn cash back while fighting back. Apply now at coin.com. That's COIGN.com. Coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for the Dr. Paz Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Dr. Paz has now welcomed Dr. Brian McLaughlin into the fold. He's been with Dr. Paz now for several months, and he brings the same level of expertise and experience that Dr. Paz has brought to Murfreesboro and Brentwood for so many years. Here's the deal, friends. If you think or if you know you have sleep apnea and you're frustrated with the concept of a CPAP machine, a mild to moderate solution would be an FDA-approved oral device like I wear. Gently supports the jaw, moves it a little bit forward so it keeps those airwaves open. It's similar to if you think about a mouth guard in football. You don't notice it. After a night or two, it's like it's not there, and you get a better night's sleep. You get sleep the way that you need the sleep, and you don't stop breathing in the night. And as fall is approaching, most of you perhaps have met your insurance deductibles. If so, maximize your insurance plan by not waiting to start treating your sleep apnea today. Get that snoring handled before the calendar year runs out. They're in network with BSBA, or BCBS, I should say, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, and TRICARE. For the military locations, Brentwood and Murfreesboro, drpos.com. That's drposs.com. Something real quick, an update. Do we have an update? Wait a minute. 99.99 might have a monkey update. Hold on. Hold everything. According to a hospital. Wait, I don't know what that is. Ken, you might want to confirm.
Let's see here. South Carolina monkey crisis.
No. 99.99 says Phil Williams of News Channel 5 went to Vanderbilt to be tested for monkeypox. Wait, I don't think that has anything to do with our South Carolina monkey story, but, okay. Okay. I mean, I think 99.99 might be messing with my mind. All right. So no update on the monkey story as
They're
of yet.
still out there, dude.
I'm telling you, I'm fighting for the monkeys. I'm with the monkeys all the way.
43 of them got out, and they're blaming it on the new employee, leaving the door unlocked.
What'd you say his name was Carl?
I made that up.
Well, but still, I'm just going to just say his name's Carl now for it. Carl, can you come in here? Did you leave this door open? I don't. I was cleaning out the back. I was cleaning out the pen out back, all the poo, and I don't know what. You left the door open, Carl.
Carl, it says in big, bold letters in the employee handbook, no monkey business while on duty.
But we're in the monkey business, sir. I don't understand what. Still no monkeys jumping on my bed, thank goodness. That says 39.89. It's a big story, folks. If you've not heard, and I guess we should update new listeners to the show who perhaps weren't with us in the 12 o'clock hour, how would you describe this, Ken? Some employee is being blamed on leaving a door open, a gate open, a cage door open, and 43 monkeys have escaped.
Yeah, got out at the Alpha Genesis Incorporated research center there in Beaufort County.
And the monkeys are said to carry no diseases, that they are probably just a little bit nervous and unsure of themselves because of their newfound freedom.
Yes, sir.
Kind of like the entire American public feels now that we got Donald Trump coming back into office. We're a little nervous about our newfound freedom. Let's hope that the monkeys are safe and sound as best they can be.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the monkeys. I don't want the monkeys to get back in cages. I hope they find a nice little paradise respite there in South Carolina, wherever they may be.
Problem is, isn't that pretty close to Florida where a bunch of boa constrictors are running around wild?
Yeah.
They like monkeys.
Do monkeys have opposable thumbs? They have opposable thumbs, right? So they can grasp like raccoons. I'm telling you, don't let the monkeys get their hand on this story about the government killing their raccoon buddies and their squirrel buddies up in New York. Those monkeys will turn mean on you real quick. I'm telling you, they told me at Loveless Cafe, this little fella had a little diaper on, and he was eating biscuits. And
I think this is the same kind of monkey that was in that movie where Ben Stiller was a watchman at a museum, Night at the Museum. I think this is the same breed of monkey.
I bet you. I bet.
In the face.
Yeah, that's right. Or if you ever watched Friends back in the day, didn't they have wasn't there a monkey on Friends?
Marcel, yeah.
That's the type of monkey we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Got the real expressive face. They do the grinning.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, looks like a little buddy.
Little fellas.
Oh, yeah. Those little monkeys. Don't feed them.
No.
Don't
feed them. Don't let them in your house. In fact, they're telling folks there in the low country of South Carolina, keep your doors closed and your windows closed.
Listen, I grew up just outside of Augusta, Georgia, in a small town called Thompson, Thomson, no P in Thompson, just across the Savannah River from South Carolina. 43 monkeys introduced into the general population of South Carolina is a marked improvement. I mean, I just pray to every fiber of my being that the Gamecock fans don't get a hold of them first and turn them into Gamecock fans.
Well, they better not enter the portal because Dabo doesn't care.
That's true. Dabo's like, no, we've got plenty of monkeys. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're good. You come up through it the right way. If you know. There you go. All right, so let me do a little bit of cleanup. I promised that I would do some of this. Mark Green has defeated Megan Barry. Obviously, that was a fait accompli. Is Megan Barry done for the rest of her political career? One would expect. So Andy Ogles dispatched of his political competition. I think the Ogles race was a little bit closer than most other congressional races in the state. As a matter of fact, I think it was the closest Republican victory in the entire state, which you could chalk that up to, I don't know, being absent for the last 3 months, sadly. It was my understanding, I did not hear it with my own ears, but several of you alerted me to the fact that there was an Andy Ogles sighting on the Dan Mandis show on Nashville's Morning News at some point over the course of this week. And that's good news. I'm glad that Andy is speaking to the folks now that he has won his reelection. Maybe he'll grace us with his presence at some point on the Matt Murphy show. Who knows? Marsha Blackburn, I'm sad to note this, that I was hopeful that Marsha would beat Gloria by a wider margin than Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in Tennessee. And I'm sad to note that did not occur. But boy, oh boy, it was close. It was almost 30. Trump won by like 30 points. Marsha won by almost 30 points. So it was within the margin of error. But I'm sad to report that it was only a 30-point victory for Marsha Blackburn over the behemoth. I mean the Democrat challenger, Gloria Johnson.
What did I tell you beforehand? She was going to get stomped like a narc at a biker rally, and that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly, yeah, I would agree with that. Heidi Campbell survived in her race against Wyatt Rampey in the city of Nashville. And believe it or not, the transit tax passed. Look, that was up to you in Davidson County. We did our part by talking about it, dissecting it. We had Freddie O'Connell, the mayor of Nashville, promoting it on our radio show. We had several proponents of the tax on the radio show as well to talk to you about the pros and cons. The people of Nashville are convinced that $3 billion in principal of their money, a total of $6.9 billion, will go to some sort of good transit within the city. I can tell you this, it's not going to lay down any concrete, and you're not filling any potholes, and you're not working on the interstate system with this money. You're working on bus routes and transit hubs and other things that no one within this city will ever utilize. Now, if it does something to alleviate traffic issues by bringing in these smart technology signals, so be it. But it was up to Davidson County, and Davidson County decided that they were fine with a half-cent sales tax increase as a result of the transit tax. Kudos to Freddie O'Connell for selling this, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but for selling this to the people of Davidson County. Jeff is in the borough. Hey, Jeff, glad you called. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm well.
I just want to say I'm glad the election's over. Like Biden said, you got to accept the results. But I think day one of Trump, everybody in January 6th that's in prison right now will be out. They will be pardoned. Number one. Number two, later on in his presidency, NATO will cease to exist. It won't exist anymore. The UN will probably be will probably take half our money out of the UN, and probably UN will probably move somewhere, I don't know where, probably move out of America, I don't know where it'll move to. And I'll just say that. And all these people that think America's not great anymore, I think they should get on a plane today and go to like Ghana or Liberia or somewhere in Vietnam and see how long you last over there. And then you'll figure out how great America is. We've always been great. We always will be. That's the bottom line. You know it and I know it, but you're not willing to admit it because, like I said, you think Donald Trump is a godlike figure. You bow down to him every day. You got a statue in your house. True or false?
Is that a question, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly. True or false? True or false?
False.
Is it true?
False.
Oh, it should be true because you bow down to him every day. Have a good day.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate your call. That turned right in the middle of that call. I think, Jeff, the next time you call, take your time. I'm going to give you ample opportunity to demonstrate whatever it is you want to demonstrate on this show. I'm not going to rush you. You don't have to rush through the speech. You can take your time with it.
You think you wrote it out?
I think it was it took a turn there right dramatically right at the end where suddenly we had statues of Donald Trump in our homes.
And you don't have one?
I don't. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, for a second there, I was worried there's a Christmas present coming, and I was a little confused for a second.
My Donald Trump statue is in the green room. I mean, it is. Well, it's a talk. I can bring it. I can bring it. I'll bring it here. It's a little talking statue. Y'all have seen it.
I'll just ruin it now. I got you a life-size one for the house.
Oh, thank you so much. Is it talking like the one in the green room?
No, it's just solid gold.
Jeff, my Donald Trump statue is a talking statue, and it is in the green room of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So just so you know. Deborah's in Cool Springs. Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Matt. I just wanted to draw your attention to an organization called White Coast Waste Project. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not. They're a 501c3 organization that fights against using taxpayer dollars to fund all these so-called animal research.
Yes, ma'am.
At places like the VA, the NIH, multiple universities across the country. And I don't know if people know this, but there's millions of taxpayer dollars that get spent every year to do so-called research on these animals, like the monkeys, like kittens, like beagles. And there's facilities out there that specifically raise these animals to sell to these so-called research centers, including places like China and Russia. And so I hope the monkeys don't get back to that facility because it sounds like it's one of those places that breeds animals to sell to research.
Yeah, I don't appreciate it. I mean, I understand, and thank you, Deborah, for the call. Here, bottom line on this, it's a much longer discussion than I have time for. I recognize that there are important research facilities that have to utilize animals in order to test certain aspects of the research that they do from a medical perspective in order to get them to human beings. And you want to test them on creatures that aren't human beings before you test them on human beings. I get all of that. But as far as most of this goes, particularly when it comes to non-essential research projects, I'm totally against testing on animals in that regard. So there are exceptions, obviously, but I am a huge softy when it comes to this issue, and I just don't believe in it. I don't believe that we need to use animals, dogs and cats and whatever, for testing purposes, unless it is vital to furthering the interest of medical research to the point that we get some cures for maladies or diseases amongst human beings. It's 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 7422 wants to know, do Trump bobbleheads or Christmas ornaments count as statues? I think Jeff would say so. To caller Jeff, Ghana's not a bad country. Of all the countries you could have chosen, that's probably not the one.
Yeah, that was random.
It was. The entire call was random. And someone said, hey, that dude was reading off an authentic Biden teleprompter. And Matt, you didn't realize you were being trolled, much like Chris Hand earlier today. Well, listen, troll me, but just don't call me late for dinner. That's all good. I don't mind that at all. Brian Wilson's coming up in just a moment. We're going to troll him and find out what is happening on the drive this afternoon on Super Talk. Coming up on the show tomorrow, the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has announced that his government will begin proceedings to ban social media for anyone under the age of 16. I'm going to ask the audience tomorrow on the show whether or not they agree with this concept. In the meantime, Brian Wilson is on the way with another fine edition of The Drive. How you feeling, Brian?
Well, I woke up today. This is the time of year where some people struggle with allergies, and I'm, as you can tell, a little froggy today.
I am too.
But I'll see if I can struggle through the show today. We got a pretty good lineup of things to talk about. We're still, trying to figure out, exactly where things lie and what the final numbers will be. And I'll go through all of that today. But we got a whole lot of stuff to talk about in regard to that, and we're going to analyze how this thing went so good for Donald Trump. And it really did exceed almost everybody's expectations. I just looked at a rundown. I don't think there's a state in the country where he didn't improve his numbers. And that's really, truly quite amazing. There was a real shift to the right.
And amongst everyone, right? All demographics. I mean, just about any demographic you can name, he made improvements and keeping the, regaining the Senate and keeping the House, it seems. Right. I mean, I know there's some questions out there.
Yeah, it's close. We're watching it, but it looks good.
But all of those things bode well for his new administration because I don't think that he'll get the pushback from some within his own party like he did in 2017 early on in his presidency.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's going to be really interesting, and what an opportunity for conservatives and Republicans if you have the White House, the Senate, and potentially the House of Representatives. What an opportunity to do good, to show people what great conservative ideas can do for this country.
All right. Well, I don't know if you know, but we've been following this big-time monkey story out of South Carolina, Brian. I'm not trying to program your time on the station, but
we're all over the monkeys.
Okay.
You can be sure.
Brian Wilson assures us that we're all on top of the monkey story throughout the 3 to 7 o'clock hours on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. Mind that voice, Brian. Careful with that because you've got 4 hours of talk radio excellence to go in the drive on Super Talk right after Ken Weaver's newscast. And Ken Weaver's coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have a wonderful afternoon, folks. Hug your loved ones. See you tomorrow. So long, folks.